Sunbelt and La Tech had a press conference. Let's talk about it. It's Locked On Sunbelt.
You are Locked On Sunbelt, your daily podcast on the Sunbelt Conference. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
All right, Dave Schultz, Locked On Sunbelt, your team every day. Today's episode brought to you by FanDuel. Right now, new customers can get $150 in bonus bets when your first $5 bet wins. Okay, so we had a press conference, and I'm going to give it up. All right, had a press conference. Keith Gill was in Ruston on Wednesday, and I remember I came back and questioned on why the Sun Belt didn't announce things on Friday. Well, now it's Thursday as you're watching this. And so now the votes were gotten together on Friday. It simmered on Saturday and Sunday, and the vote was taken on Monday. It was officially announced on Tuesday. They had the press conference on Wednesday. It's now Thursday. The story's lasted a week. All right, so got to give it up to the Sun Belt for that. All right, now they instead of having it for the weekend, it's been stretched out for a week. That's pretty good. All right, so impressed with that. All right, I'm impressed with Dr. Jim Henderson. All right, you had Ryan Ivey, the AD. He spoke from some notes, spoke well. Keith Gill spoke from some notes, spoke well. Dr. Jim Henderson, no notes, off the top of his head. Very impressive. Went right at it with UL Lafayette and UL Monroe. All right. And talked about the Lady Textures basketball team losing a couple of tough national championship games, but very impressive. All right. Those are things that I like. The other things that we heard about, I didn't listen to the whole presser. Mostly I was disappointed we didn't get questions. But they had media availability after the presser. All right. So they wanted, really, I'm not even sure if they all spoke for, I think Dr. Jim Henderson maybe spoke for 8 to 10 minutes. I think Keith Gill spoke for 5, and maybe Ryan Ivey spoke for 5 to 8 minutes, right? They did not speak for very long. It was not a very long event. And then you could have individual question and answer session. So they did have questions afterwards. All right. I have not seen video of that, but we are going to react to some of the questions a little later on here in a minute. The other thing that we don't know, or that we presumed, this is one of the things we presumed. All right. Ryan Ivey, because of all of this, didn't take place when it needed to, and way earlier. It could not have been done any earlier. When the press release was put out on Tuesday, it said no later than July 1st, 2027. And the reason for that is Conference USA needs a 14-month leeway to get out. And so you do July, whatever it was, and that's into September of 2026. All right. So even if it was June 30th, that's still almost, is that too late? It really needed to be like May 1st to be out. All right. And so that's way too, even what I'm going to say next, too soon. My issue is, and from what I think either on with either Aaron Dietrich or Sean Fox, Ryan Ivey said they didn't start talking, and I gathered this from talking to other people before I heard it from Ryan Ivey, and this is what I don't understand. Officially, maybe it's more officially than unofficially, but officially, Louisiana Tech did not start talking to the Sun Belt until Texas State left. until June 30th/July 1st. So that whole Pete Thamel report in the middle of June may have been true, but that whole 2-week thing going on meant nothing. That's what it seemed to me. And the reason I wonder why that is the issue is the Sun Belt going to say we can't do anything because Texas State is still part of our conference? Well, Texas State's playing footsie with the Pac-12, not for a couple of weeks, for a year. Right? This was not something that came to a surprise. This is not something that was shocking out of the blue, right? You go back and watch. We were talking about this for a long time, right? I asked GJ Kinney around spring football, what do you know and when did you know it? Right? So, and that's a few months ago, not to mention the previous fall. Like, we've been hearing these rumors for a long time. This is not something new. And so why is Texas State allowed to talk to the Pac-12, but the Sun Belt is not allowed to talk to La Tech? Now, is there a difference between unofficial and official? Kind of like a head coaching search. Like when the coach says, I haven't spoken to anybody, but we know the search firm has spoke to the agent, whereas the AD hasn't necessarily spoke to the coach, but we know they've been approached. That type of deal, right? And so as soon as Texas State gets the official word from the Pac-12, here's the invite, and they say thank you, and they call the Sun Belt, then the ball can get rolling. Well, okay. And so maybe that's what took some time. And so when I said if they wanted them to be in, they'd be in, I guess technically that's wrong because they couldn't have been in. We'll find that out either in the next couple of days when we see some video from that press conference. We're certainly going to find that out in New Orleans. All right, Keith Gill will answer questions following his opening statement. I'm telling you, it feels like a setup. I'm leaving Wednesday, 3 p.m. is my flight. 2:50 is my flight. Guess who my last interview is scheduled? Keith Gill. Now, I have a feeling they're going to help take care of me. I let the Sun Belt know. Probably should have done it beforehand. By the way, my flight is at 2:50. Can we get everything done prior to 1? All right. So we shall see. All right. So this is everything that we know. All right. Impressed with Dr. Jim Henderson. The Sun Belt, they can't come in. We'll rephrase that. They're not supposed to come in until 2027. They're going to do everything they can to come in into 2026. All right. That is what we thought. They're going to work things out. All right. It's beneficial to everybody. It's beneficial to La Tech. It's beneficial to Conference USA. I think that's going to be worked out. I wouldn't be surprised if it's worked out in the next couple of months, because those things have to be worked out a little bit in advance. It's not like it's going to be worked out in January. It needs to be worked out before that. So I think it'll be worked out. He said it was awkward. I mean, kind of hard feelings. But once you get past that, you got to get past it. All right. So I think that'll be worked out. Okay. Now, we did get some comments, and they seem to be the typical comments from the Sun Belt. We'll do that when we come back, after I tell you about FanDuel. Summer sports are in full swing, and whether you're all about baseball under the lights, golf on the green, or high-stakes soccer action, FanDuel is the best way to make every game even more exciting. You're already following the action. Why not make it a little bit more thrilling? With FanDuel, you get in on the game while your friends are getting sunburned at the beach. I've been using FanDuel to track my favorite matchups, and the app keeps it fresh with new daily promotions and fun ways to bet. It's easy to use, fast to pay out, and makes even regular season games feel like must-watch events. Whether I'm placing a same-game parlay or watching a bet ride into the ninth inning, FanDuel makes it feel like I'm part of the action. Also, Southern Miss, over-under 4.5 wins. Now it's almost minus 200 for over 4.5 wins. So they're heavy favorites to go over 4.5 wins. Still like that bet. New to FanDuel, new customers can bet just $5 and get $150 in bonus bets if your first bet wins. Open the FanDuel app today or visit FanDuel.com to get started. All right, Dave Schultz, Locked On Sunbelt, your teams every day. All right, so we did get a couple of comments from Keith Gill, Commissioner of the Sunbelt. All right, and he mentioned it to Matt Bellinson, who covers La Tech for Rustin Daily, and wouldn't you know it, Aaron Dietrich has it. I go to Twitter, and boom, it's Keith Gill. So we're not going to hear that. We're going to go to Matt Bellinson, and he covers it again for the Rustin Daily Leader. Rustin Daily Leader. Okay. Here's the comment I want to get over. All right. Sunbelt Commissioner Keith Gill. Right now, the perfect size for a conference is 14. But that doesn't mean 16 or 18 would make sense for the right brands. All right. So a few things, and we'll get to this because I went on with my guy Ed Lane over in Virginia. I've been on that radio station a couple of times. Why not Liberty? All right. We'll talk about that a little bit later. But to me, it just feels like the Sun Belt is once again reacting. Now, there's part of this that the Sun Belt has to react, right? They can't be, they're not the Big Ten, right? They can't go grab teams and put them in a better situation like the Big Ten did with Oregon, USC, and UCLA, right? And give them the kind of money that the Big Ten has compared to the Pac-12 network that was absolutely ridiculously run. Can't do that. So you have to wait a little bit. But it just feels like that's what the Sun Belt does. The Sun Belt reacts instead of is proactive. The other question is, what was the rush? Why now? All right. Because it doesn't feel like, and it is more positive the more this comes on. I don't know if it's just more La Tech fans or Cajuns fans being more accepted. Like, again, Cajuns, up until Southern Miss showed up, did not have a rival. Texas State isn't a rival. ULM isn't a rival. Arkansas State was a rival. You know, as Kara Ritchie said, you know, the HUD and the former Arkansas State coach were frenemies. You know, this is hate. This is flat out hate. And if this can be in 26 and the first game be in, I don't know, whatever the new stadium is, Cajun Field, it's going to be packed. All right. That is, again, there's not, I mean, maybe Southern Miss. There's not a game on the Cajun schedule that fills the stadium. It's very odd. And I know I'm not going to sit here and say that's why, you know, JMU is going to vote them in. All right. But generally speaking, there's not one there, right? Whereas Georgia Southern and App State fill the stadium. Well, I will tell you this, McNeese is going to fill the stadium, but a lot of that is going to be McNeese fans. All right. Not only got people come from Lake Charles, but, you know, I'm sure a bunch of McNeese alumni are sitting there in Lafayette. All right. Marshall should be a good football game. All right. But I mean, if that was the normal Cajun field, be a half full stadium. No one would be there. Now it should be full because it's a new stadium. All right. Should be 30,000 fans there. But if this was 2023, you'd have half full stadium. Wouldn't draw anybody. Still maybe a half full stadium. We'll see. There's nobody on this that draws. Southern Miss is coming back. That should draw. All right. South Alabama's a road game. Arkansas State's a road game. ULM is coming to town. But the Cajuns don't have that rival. La Tech is that rival. That's the game that everyone will circle and come. So that's good news there. But what is the rush? And why isn't the Sun Belt more proactive? And why? I don't know about 18. I don't know if you have to do 18. That's, splitting the pie up too much. But why not 16? All right. That's what I would say. That's my question. All right. What's the rush? And why not 16? Why wait until you need to make a move? Whether teams available, was Western Kentucky, Middle Tennessee available? Were they interested? We didn't hear anything that they were available. We did hear that they were discussed, and they kind of came off the table. But that's where I'm disappointed in. It just feels like the Sun Belt reacts and instead of being proactive. Now, some of that is they're the Sun Belt. They're not a Power 4 conference. All right. The other big elephant in the room was Liberty considered. And a couple of things, I don't know about a couple of things, but one of the things that Keith Gill said was why maybe Liberty was not. We'll talk about that right after I thank you again, continually. We're growing. I mean, we're going to be at 2350. Again, I can have more, not quite probably, but very close to the same amount of, probably by the end of Thursday, the same amount of subscribers, certainly by the end of the week, that I had all between January, February, and March. That's crazy. Thank you, La Tech. So I really do appreciate it. We are on a record-setting pace for the audio. All right, halfway through the month. We already have more audio downloads halfway through the month than we had in May. All right. By the end of the week, we could have more audio downloads. Well, probably not. But by the end of Sunbelt Media Days, we could have more audio downloads than we had in June. No, we're off and running. I think we're going to have 2,500 subscribers by the end of Sunbelt Media Days. I'm going to have 8,000 Twitter followers probably by August. And we could be close to 3,000 subscribers by kickoff is probably pushing it. But we're not going to be too far away. So I do appreciate it. Thank you so much. Don't forget those audio downloads, Apple Podcasts, Spotify. You can find them anywhere, but those are the two most popular. So thank you very much. It is sincerely appreciated. All right, Dave Schultz, Lockdown Sunbelt, your teams every day. All right, so why not Liberty? And as far as I know, Liberty was not considered, was not discussed, was not considered. Whereas Western Kentucky and Middle Tennessee, more Western Kentucky, but apparently those two teams were tied at the hip. So Western Kentucky and Middle Tennessee was discussed. Liberty was not. But one of the things that, and Matt Bellinson does have the quote, Sunbelt Commissioner Keith Gill on adding La Tech, Louisiana Tech looks like us. Liberty doesn't. Liberty has a endowment the size of like some SEC schools, like bigger. It just doesn't fit. Forget about the cultural or religious aspects. It's just different, right? JMU's athletic budget is like triple of what ULM's is. About this almost triple of what La Tech's is. And I think Liberty's dwarfs those things. And so when he says La Tech looks like the Cajuns and ULM and Southern Miss and Arkansas State, it doesn't feel like it's a shot at Liberty, but it kind of feels like saying, you ain't one of us. So I don't know if that means it ain't coming down later on, but it feels like Sunbelt's over here, Liberty's over there. That's the way it feels like. When I heard La Tech is one of us, again, people hear what they want to hear. I mean, we can all hear somebody say the same thing and hear two different things. It happens all the time. I heard La Tech is one of us and Liberty isn't. That's what I heard. It may sound ridiculous, but that's exactly what I heard. La Tech is Sunbelt. Liberty is not. I'm going to doubt that's what he meant in a big way. I'm sure it was much more, if not 100% more, about La Tech. I took it to mean somewhat about Liberty. That's what I took it as. All right. So again, you can't just snap your fingers and get people to come in. Although it was that way with La Tech because they wanted in badly. Now, I thought I heard the La Tech AD said the travel save for him is going to be 7 figures. That's different than what ULM is going to save. That is totally different compared to what, that's very different, right? I mean, this has no regionality whatsoever. Delaware just got in. FIU, Jack State, Kennesaw State, Liberty, La Tech, Missouri State, Middle Tennessee, New Mexico State, Sam Houston, UTEP, and Western Kentucky. I mean, even So UTEP is right there next to New Mexico State. I mean, Sam Houston and UTEP, that's across the whole state. I mean, there's no regionality to Conference USA. And I agree with Keith Gill. That makes the Sun Belt a unicorn and special. Like, I like the divisions. I do like the divisions. It has happened twice since 18 where the two best teams were in the same division. And one of them was South Alabama and Troy. So what would that have been? 22? And that's on South Alabama. Just beat Troy at home. That's on you. All right. They had a better record. Both those teams only had one loss. And I think the other division, both teams had 2 losses. That's on South Alabama. Yeah. And I think it's only happened twice since 18. I don't think I counted. I'm not sure if I counted 20. It's only happened twice since 18. I know. I think that's more of an aberration than anything else. So I like the divisions. I think it gives you something to play for if things don't go particularly well early. Marshall had that brutal loss against Georgia Southern and still bounced back. Things like that. I like it. So, and I think the regionality plays really well in the East. Some of the rivalries I'm still not all that up on. I need to do a better job with that. So I like the divisions. I would just like the Sun Belt to be a little bit more proactive and stop waiting for things to happen before they do things. Like go and get another Texas school before Texas State decides to leave. Would that have changed anything? Probably not. I mean, if the split for the Sun Belt is $2.5 million and they're talking 7 to 10, they're probably going. Right? If you get North Texas in there or UTSA or Sam Houston, they were probably leaving. But it'd be nice to see the effort. Now, they did kick it around with ECU. Maybe that's a sign of things to come, but we'll see. We'll see. Maybe we'll talk about what Keith Gill did say. I find it hilarious. I went around looking for video of Keith Gill, and I go find Matt Bellinson's quote, and Keith Gill is the first thing up there with Aaron Dietrich. So we'll see what Keith Gill had to say, and hopefully we do get him from Sunbelt Media Days. And if we don't get him, well, the problem is he's going to take a vacation, right? He needs a little downtime in between now and the season. And I have a feeling if I don't get him like during Sunbelt Media Day, he'll come on with me for a whole episode, but we'll see when that happens. All right. Thanks so much for tuning in. Do appreciate it. Again, we're going to be over by the end of the day. We'll be over 2,350 subscribers. That is, I'm telling you, in the last 30 days, over 350 subscribers. You guys are the best. That is a ridiculous amount. More than almost 15% of what I've had. So that's fantastic. Really do appreciate it. Thank you so much. You've been watching Locked On Sunbelt, your teams every day. See if we'll be back on Friday if we have some news to share. Otherwise, have a great weekend. And Monday, we can tell you, Monday, we do preview, again, the Sunbelt Media Days, but with our buddy Rocky Boyman, as he is hosting Sunbelt Media Days with our other buddy, Matt Stewart, Boyman from ESPN, and we do the whole thing in one episode. We'll figure out what we're going to do for Tuesday and Wednesday. We'll put something up there from Sunbelt Media Days. We'll figure it out. Maybe just reacting to it. Certainly going to react to whatever Keith Gill says. We'll save all the players and the reaction for when I get back. But we'll figure it out. We have to have a little bit of fun in New Orleans. I mean, we're going to be in New Orleans. We got to have a little bit of fun. You got to socialize with all the people down there, right? I got to have a little fun. All right. Thank you so much for tuning in. You've been watching Locked On Sunbelt, your teams every day. We'll talk to you again soon. Thank you so much.